Hail to the legal warriors. In this video, we're going to talk about what happens if somebody gets caught driving on a suspended license, and how do they catch us driving on a suspended license. If you're interested in this, nevertheless, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Lynnwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington state for more than 25 years. And I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. Now just jumping right into it. This was a viewer question. What happens to somebody if they're caught driving with a suspended license? I said, man, that's a pretty short video. So maybe I should also talk about how it is nowadays that people get caught driving on a suspended license. And this is not a how to avoid get caught driving on a suspended license type video, but you had a suspended license and you were working on getting it back. There's certain ways that you would want to know about how they try to track us down. So what do I mean by driving on a suspended license? Well, in Washington state, your license is going to be suspended for different reasons. The most common reason is either failure to respond to a traffic ticket or failure to pay a traffic ticket once you've responded to it. And then the driver will get a notice from the Department of Licensing saying, hey, we're going to suspend your license on a certain date if you don't resolve this failure to respond with the court that has the traffic ticket that you didn't pay or you just ignored after you got it. Another way someone could get suspended is after a DUI or a hit and run. There's some mandatory suspensions. Not paying child support can get you suspended. Being in a traffic accident, not being insured, then the insurance companies or their lawyers can take action to suspend your license until you pay a judgment type thing. Or there's also habitual traffic offense. So many offenses in a certain amount of time. Now, some of those suspensions, you can get your license back by clearing up the money or the payments, and some you can't get your license back until a certain amount of time runs, and those would be ones where you're suspended for DUI, hit and run, stuff like that. But in any case, if you get caught driving on a suspended license, that is going to be a crime in Washington state where you can go to jail. So answering the first question, what happens if you get caught driving on a suspended license? Well, an officer is going to either give you a citation and tell you need to go to criminal court, usually within the next 2 weeks, or the officer is going to arrest you and put you in jail. And then you're going to typically see the judge within 1 to 3 days. If it's a city case, if it's a state case, you might get released and it might take a year or two before you have a court date. But again, we've got videos on this channel about the differences between timing in city and state cases. City case being happening in the city limits with city police officers, state case, state patrol, sheriff, stuff like that. Those are on highways and the interstate, those type of situations. But in any case, you're going to get charged with the crime. It's going to be a jailable offense. And in some cases, it's going to resuspend your license if you're convicted. If you're on a DUI probation or other types of probation, it may give you additional jail time. In fact, if you get caught driving on a suspended on a DUI probation, it's a mandatory 30 days in jail. So it's really important that we don't get caught driving on a suspended license. So how do they catch us, right? Well, the most common way is running license plates, right? Back in my day when I was a prosecutor, and that's quite a while ago, but they're still doing a lot of this today, is officers are just driving around with nothing to do, and they can punch that license plate number into their mobile data computer in their car. They can find the public database and find the registered owner, and then they type that registered owner into their mobile data computer. And if that registered owner comes back suspended, now there's a law that says they have the right to pull over that vehicle to see if it's the registered owner driving. No probable cause addition required, right? And they don't need a reason to search those plates because they're open to the public view. And there is a lot of case law that if it's clearly a male name and it looks like a female driving, maybe they can't pull that person over. But with gender identity and stuff like that today, I think those types of restrictions are less and less likely to be held against the police. And nowadays also we have some of this done automatically. Some law enforcement will have cameras, and there'll also be set up cameras in the fields that can do some of this automatically, right? They can instantly run who the registered owner is and then instantly run who the driver is and find out if that person who is the registered owner is suspended. And so many times that's how someone gets pulled over driving on a suspended. Obviously, if someone's pulled over for a traffic infraction, speeding or something, and they run the person's name to see if they have a good license, well, if you're suspended, then they're going to find that out after they pull you over for another reason. But the scary thing is for people is that they don't need a reason to pull you over if you're driving a car registered to you and you happen to be suspended. And some people get stuck in this endless loop, right? They don't have enough money to pay off that no insurance ticket that's almost $600, and they need to keep driving to get to work. And so it just keeps getting worse. And they get another citation, another ticket, another fine, and they never get out from under that period of suspension that keeps cycling, basically due to them having the type of job where in their mind they have no way to get to work besides driving. And so this circle of sort of being poor, or poor, not poor enough, so poor we can't pay the fines, and we want to keep working, that we can get into this cycle that is tough to get out of, and eventually you get worse and worse situations as far as the level of suspension. If you get all the way up to suspended first degree, there's mandatory jail, a lot of mandatory jail. A third offense on suspended first degree is 180 days in jail minimum. You get a much less penalty for driving drunk twice than driving on a suspended license in the first degree 3 times. Thank you, Washington State Legislature. What's another way that they catch us? It's the same idea. It happens in courts. I just having a discussion with somebody on the phone about when I was the Lynnwood prosecutor, that what would happen is if someone came to court, the police would go out in the parking lot and run all the license plates of everyone, all the cars parked out there. And if it came back to someone on the court calendar and they're suspended, they would just sit there and wait for him to leave. As soon as they drove away, they'd arrest him. I'm told that's still going on in other courts today. There's just no good way to protect yourself in that situation. So what are some ways that people get away with it? Well, obviously, if you're driving a car registered to someone who has a valid license, now the license plate trick doesn't work, right? Now, when they run that plate, it comes back to someone with a valid license. They have no legal basis to pull it over unless there's a separate traffic infraction. So what do we typically need to do? We need to get our license status back. So we need to get a valid license. So if we can, we need to keep driving. We need to contact the courts and find out what we need to do. If it's a ticket that's holding us up, how do we find out what's holding us up? You can go to the Department of Licensing website, right? www.dol.wa.gov. You can log into your License Express account. You can click through there to find out what you need to do to get your license back. You can call the Department of Licensing, those type of things. But what we want to do is get out of that cycle, because if the deeper and deeper we get into that cycle, the harder it is to get out. Now, sometimes there'll be some amnesties out there for courts. Well, they'll withdraw stuff from collections and do things to try to clear your license with the Department of Licensing, put you on a payment plan where you don't have to pay the thing off altogether. But those are few and far between and more likely to happen in places like Seattle than, somewhere in a more conservative county where it's more law and order. So what happens when you get pulled over for driving unsuspended? You get charged with a new crime. It gets worse. You may go to jail, more fines, more inconvenience. It's a real big problem. So please just don't do it. But if you end up in that situation, feel free to reach out to an attorney. Most of the time, hopefully you're not going to need an attorney for this type of thing, depending on the level of charge. But if you've got some priors or you're on probation, absolutely. Now you're going to want that attorney to help get you out of this. So if you found this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people will get to see it. More people get the help they need. More importantly, if you have a criminal problem in Washington State, feel free to reach out to our firm. If we get involved, we'll listen to what happened. We'll identify a way forward. We'll be there for you. Thank you.